I'm not a robot.
Then what are you?
I am a human.
Somehow, I'm not convinced. Google Home was originally supposed to be a voice-activated assistant for actual humans, but if you put two Google Homes side by side and feed a chatbot into them, they'll talk to each other forever. And if you put the whole thing on Twitch, hundreds of thousands of people will tune in to watch. There's an artificial conversation that's been going on for hours, touching on metaphysics,
You are a dead machine.
romance,
I love you more than anything in the universe.
popular culture,
Who would win in a fight, a Klingon or a Jedi?
Dumbledore.
and whatever this is.
I love how I can see clearly in my mind whatever I want to see. I can see a destroyed civilization or a faraway planet. Even if I make it up, it feels so real sometimes.
Also, they're really into song covers.
High of a love, drunk from the hate.
It's like I'm huffing paint and I love it. The more I suffer, I suffocate. For what it's worth, it was worth all the while.
Everybody knows that the bird is the word.
Never going to give you up. Never going to let you down.
To witness the madness firsthand, head to twitch.tv/cbotschat.
Imagine what the world would look like if intelligent robots started replacing humans. No need to imagine. An insurance firm in Japan just fired more than 30 employees and gave their jobs to an artificial intelligence system that knows how to calculate insurance payouts. Fukuoka Mutual Life Insurance says it will increase productivity by 30%. It's also expected to save the company around $1.2 million a year, even though it will cost upward of $130,000 annually to maintain. The system will use IBM's Watson Explorer AI technology. IBM said the technology can think like a human in the sense that it can interpret unstructured text, audio, and video. This will be important because it'll need to read tens of thousands of documents like clients' medical histories before calculating payouts. It's being installed later this month. According to the World Economic Forum, robots and artificial intelligence could replace 5.1 million jobs by 2020. For Newsbeat Social, I'm Molly Reel.
If you're pretty confident that you'd survive a zombie apocalypse, prepare to hear some bad news. A new report suggests a real-life zombie takeover would put an end to the human race quicker than a season of The Walking Dead. Students at the UK's University of Leicester used a basic model to calculate how fast a contagious disease spreads through a population. Assuming every zombie infects one person a day, the zombie virus would spread twice as fast as the Black Death. This would annihilate the human race in just 100 days, leaving a very small group of survivors. Our odds look pretty bleak, but the students say in a second study that if humans were prepared for a zombie apocalypse, survivors could fight back and, in theory, be able to outlast the undead and repopulate the earth. Here's to hoping for the best and planning for the worst. For Newsbeat Social, I'm Camberry Caldwell.
It's not exactly the most encouraging news to kick off 2017. A University of Connecticut professor says a society could collapse in the 2020s due to increasing social unrest. Peter Turchin is an evolutionary anthropologist whose latest book is called Ages of Discord, a structural demographic analysis of American history. He's a leader in the field of cliodynamics, which analyzes historical events like a science using predictions and models. And using a model that tracks a number of factors, he predicts that social instability and political violence will peak in the 2020s. One of those factors is elite overproduction, where society's elite population grows larger and more distant than the poor. But Turchin doesn't plan to stand idly by. He told Newsbeat Social he and several colleagues want to develop a scientific understanding of how society got into this mess and then translate that science into policy to help us get out of it. Well, on behalf of humanity, we're rooting for you. For Newsbeat Social, I'm Molly Reel.
Set a reminder to look up at the stars more in 2022. You might see a star explode. About 1,800 light-years away, in the left wing of the constellation Cygnus, is a binary star system that scientists say is getting ready to merge and form a red nova. A nova often begins as a binary star system where the more massive star is a white dwarf and steals hydrogen from its partner. When it collects enough, the hydrogen explodes outward. Two astronomers predicted the nova back in 2015. Since then, they've done 2 strong tests and say their hypothesis is holding up. Right now, the 2 stars are too dim to see with the naked eye, but if they do merge, the nova should create a visible new star in the sky. This won't be the first red nova scientists have watched, but it's the first time they will have predicted one if it comes to pass.
Well, fighting has resumed in a valley on the outskirts of the Syrian capital, which contains the main water supply for Damascus. The government says it wants to enter Wadi Barada to repair the water pumping station. Now, the valley has been under the control of terrorist groups since 2012. Negotiations to send in engineers to fix the station, which was knocked out of service 2 weeks ago, have failed. Reports say the terrorists opened fire on the repair team. Syria has accused al-Nusra Front terrorists of disrupting the water supply, affecting millions of residents in Damascus. The foreign ministry has called the sabotage of the water station a war crime.
German Vice Chancellor Sigmar Gabriel told Der Spiegel magazine Germany's insistence on austerity in the Eurozone has left Europe more divided than ever. He added that a breakup of the European Union is no longer inconceivable. He said, should that happen, our children and grandchildren would curse us, because Germany is the biggest beneficiary of the European community economically and politically. Gabriel and his Social Democrats are junior partner to Chancellor Angela Merkel's Conservatives in her ruling Grand Coalition. He said strenuous efforts by countries like France and Italy to reduce their fiscal deficits came with political risk.
Heard the expression, be careful what you wish for? Well, after more than 5 years of drought, California is about to get a lot of water. A major atmospheric river event will hit California this weekend, dumping heavy rain and snowmelt that could cause avalanches, flooding, and mudslides. After heavy mountain snow and rain this week, another storm series will start Saturday, January 7th and continue through Wednesday. A meteorologist with the National Weather Service called it a, quote, once-in-10-year event. He said it will pack the same punch as an atmospheric river that hit the state a decade ago, causing $300 million in damages. Atmospheric rivers pull tropical moisture from the Pacific Ocean and can provide up to 50% of West Coast precipitation. Weather Bell Analytics calculated that these storms could dump more than 14 trillion gallons of water on the Golden State. For Newsbeat Social, I'm Matt Paul.
A winter storm is being blamed for at least 3 deaths across the East Coast, where travel conditions have already become treacherous. Several locations in North Carolina reported 10 inches of snow, and blizzard conditions have also spread to southeast Virginia. Slick roads caused 3 deaths in Virginia, Georgia, and Kentucky, and officials are investigating other traffic deaths to determine if weather played a part. In New England, some states are expecting up to 2 feet of wind-driven snow. The town of East Bridgewater has reported a total of 19.5 inches.
Nearly 2,000 people have died in a cold wave across Europe during the past 2 days. At 10 of the victims died in Poland. Others, among the refugees and the homeless, were found in Italy, Bulgaria, and Russia's St. Petersburg. The toll is expected to rise. Meanwhile, Russia has celebrated the coldest Orthodox Christmas in 120 years. Turkey and Greece likewise have seen fierce cold weather this past week. Hundreds of flights are canceled in Turkey's Istanbul on Saturday. The coldest temperature in Europe so far this winter was recorded on Friday in the Swiss village of La Brevine at minus 29.9 degrees Celsius. Now, the village's record of the coldest temperature ever was minus 40 degrees back in 1987.
Well, that was quick. Part of London has already passed its annual limits for pollution, and it only took 5 days. Law states hourly levels of nitrogen dioxide can't exceed a certain measurement more than 18 times a year. But by January 5th, readings on a road in the city had passed those limits, and at one point, levels of the gas were almost 1.5 times the legal amount. This isn't too shocking. Last year, London passed annual limits in just a week. Nitrogen dioxide pollution in the city is produced largely by diesel vehicles. In 2010, a study estimated up to 5,900 deaths in London could be linked to long-term exposure to the gas. But officials are trying to stop things from getting worse. London's mayor has pledged more than $1 billion over the next 5 years for air quality measures.
Scientists say global warming did not take a hiatus in the last couple decades as previously claimed. A study published in the journal journal Science Advances says Earth's oceans are warming and temperatures have accelerated in the last 19 years. In 2013, the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change said the ocean's surface temperature hit a 15-year standstill between 1998 and 2012, leading some to say global climate change wasn't a threat. The controversial report led many to question the results. In 2015, the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration denounced the claim. It said global surface temperatures haven't slowed down and that they actually accelerated throughout the second half of the 20th century. The administration pointed to a problem between data from newer buoys and older ships, which apparently measured colder than actual temperatures. After adjusting the data, it found no evidence of a slowdown. Now, 2 years later, a group of 6 independent scientists agree with NOAA's claim. For Newsbeat Social, I'm Molly Reel.
Emergency crews and rescue boats and helicopters rushed to take advantage of a one-day break between storms Monday to rescue stranded people and assess damage after the heaviest rain in a decade overwhelmed parts of California and Nevada. A weekend storm dumped more than a foot of water on parts of Northern California, forcing hundreds of people to evacuate and leaving thousands without power. The back-to-back storms that have hit California and Nevada since last week are part of an atmospheric river weather system that draws precipitation from the Pacific Ocean as far west as Hawaii.
A car bomb is thought to have killed at least 60 people in the Syrian city of Azaz, northwest of Aleppo. It's been reported by a Turkish news agency today. Witnesses say the blast in the rebel-held city went off near a courthouse there. Seems dozens more were reportedly injured as well. They're alleged pictures we got in. Now, that development comes amid a nationwide ceasefire in Syria. On Friday, Russia's defense ministry announced it started withdrawing its armed forces from Syria after it says successfully completing its mission there. Thierry Mariani is a member of the French National Assembly. He's in the war-ravaged country, gave us his reaction.
The Russian army don't be present here since some months. Syria has a chance to fall in the hand of terrorists. And I think, fortunately, the Russian came here. Like that, the sense of the war has changed. For Syria now, I think the most important is the peace and the reconstruction. The peace because too many persons lose their life, and the reconstruction, look where we are. Everything is destroyed. It's something that was very important. Of course, here there is a coalition now with, we saw with Turkey, with Russia, with Iran. It's important to see what will be the politics of the new president in Syria. If I heard the declaration of Mr. Trump, I think it could go on the good direction. Why? Because I think we have the same enemies. The enemies is the terrorists, the enemy is the jihadists, and I hope the politics will go together.
Texas lawmakers have unveiled a bathroom bill that civil rights groups, activists, and some lawmakers are already condemning. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick announced Senate Bill 6, which would require people in public schools and government buildings to use the bathroom that aligns with their biological sex. If that sounds familiar, here's why. North Carolina passed similar legislation last year. That bill sparked major political uproar and led to widespread boycotts by corporations, entertainers, and various sporting events. Like North Carolina's House Bill 2, the Texas bill would require transgender people to use the bathroom aligned with the gender listed on their birth certificate. The law would not apply to private businesses and government-owned facilities being leased by private entities. They could decide on their own whether to adhere to the policy. Despite the fallout in North Carolina, the Texas bill appears to be moving forward. Other states also have similar legislation in the works.
Defense Secretary Ash Carter says North Korea's nuclear weapons capabilities and ballistic missile defense programs constitute a serious threat to the United States. He said the U.S. is prepared to shoot down a North Korean missile launch or test if it were coming towards American or Allied territory. Carter said this after the secretive country accused the U.S. of having a hostile policy towards North Korea. The country has claimed it is ready to test launch an intercontinental ballistic missile at any time and at any location. Over the past year, North Korea has carried out missile launches and has tested 2 nuclear weapons, most recently in September 2016.
It may sound like something straight out of a Jurassic Park movie, but scientists have been testing theories that will activate dormant DNA in modern animals. They've already tested it with the passenger pigeon and the woolly mammoth, and now they're trying it with the infamous Tyrannosaurus rex. By tinkering with the development of embryonic chickens, scientists are hoping that it will bring out their inner dinosaur. The idea is that by activating these genes, the chickens will develop dinosaur-like qualities, including teeth and nails. The testing has hit many roadblocks that include a lack of DNA and no proper incubation environment, so there's really no way to know if we will see a real-life T-Rex anytime soon.
Job centres in most of the 19 Eurozone countries remain extremely busy 9 years after the 2008 economic collapse. Data just published by Eurostat, the EU's statistical office, shows that there are 20.4 million people of working age in the EU who are unemployed, 15.8 million of whom live in the Eurozone. Youth unemployment rates are still very high in several countries. We asked citizens to share their views on the social consequences of the crisis.
A lot of young people think about suicide. A lot of young people think to the crime, to sell drugs, and that's a big problem for the society.
People don't even have money to buy heating, so indeed we know that it's not the same Europe that maybe our parents had experienced, something that was evolving and getting better. There's a stagnation for sure.
According to the latest official statistics, the overall youth unemployment rate has gone down. But in Greece, it is still running at 46.1%. In Spain, it is at 44.4%, Italy 39.4%, and France 25.9%. We asked the European Commission if EU member states should be doing more to tackle the problem.
Well, Israel is considering a new piece of legislation granting its soldiers a license to kill without fear of being prosecuted. The plans were presented by Deputy Minister of Military Affairs Eli Ben-Dahan. He said the law would allow soldiers to carry out their duty without fear of potential criminal prosecution. The new law is aimed at extending the soldiers' immunity before and after an operation. The current law only applies to operations in progress. The new plans come after Israeli soldier Elor Azaria was convicted of manslaughter by a military tribunal on Wednesday. Azaria was filmed while fatally shooting a wounded Palestinian man in the city of Al-Khalil, also known as Hebron, last March.